And as I mentioned earlier, Centeno has not been active as of late. Oh, down he goes! The right hand from Solecki.
I try to do everything in my power to give fighters who've been knocked out or knocked down or have been defeated multiple times every possible chance to win. And the question I have is, by the way, this guy right here, Solecki, he is fighting Vince Martirosyan to be the mandatory for Jermall Charlo at 154 pounds. They're working on that date right now. Anyway, I'm TstreeT Controversy. This is TstreeT Controversy Live. I cover every single major fight live. So Hugo Centeno is about 6'2", very tall. Started his career around the 147 pound limit, and it seems over the last several years there has been some last few years there have been a little bout of inactivity, you know, between December of 2016 and August of last year. Now, looking at his resume, there's not much there, and if you look at when he got stopped by Solecki in 2016, you can see that he's had 2 fights since then, and basically fighting again in March, you can consider that to be somewhat inactive, even though he had that fight in August and now in March. It still should be at least one more fight in there. But anyway, nonetheless, basically it's been said that because that fight, he lost that fight because of weight. You know, he was having some issues with weight, whatever the case may be, you know, he lost the fight. And now he's fighting at 160 pounds. He lost the fight at 154 to a 154-pounder. He's fighting in a new division. Now, yeah, Jermall Charlo is a former 154-pound IBF champion. Remember, the belt that Jarrett Swift Hurd is defending against Erislandy Lara, or unifying with Erislandy Lara, is the belt that he dropped to move to 160. This fight, by the way, is for the WBC Interim 160-pound title. And basically what that means is it means that the winner is going to be the mandatory for Golovkin, and an interim title is made according to the WBC rules, or any interim title anywhere, is if the champion is not available for whatever reason. They can make it for whatever reason they want, but usually it's injury. In this case, they don't want to stop Canelo versus Golovkin too, meaning the WBC. You see what I'm saying? So this is the first step before they have to pay either Golovkin or Canelo or whoever may have that belt at the time. This is the first step before they're going to have to pay Jermall Charlo money for not fighting him. If he we're not going to do that. If he let's just stop it right there. Bad thumbnail, J-Rock, but we got to stop it right there. They're going to have to pay him some money if they choose not to fight Jermall Charlo before, let's say, May of next year or something like that, right? Anyway, this fight is going to be on undercard of Wilder versus Ortiz. So expect this to be a really big heavyweight fight in a really big card. And also, I'm hoping that this is a fight where Hugo Centeno shows up and doesn't come to the fight scared. I'm just hoping, you know, because the Charlos got some mystique around them, especially since they've been knocking people out. And also, Jermall has always been considered the power puncher of the two. Jermall, yeah, he's got the knockouts of Lubin and Hatley, but Jermall has been the one that's always been knocking people out, to where Jermall was looked at as more of the boxer. So Jermall, in a sense, has caught up to his brother as far as, yeah, these brothers should be feared because they both got power and they will knock you out. And also, they're not born. And they've gotten so much better on their microphone in selling themselves on social media. You see what I'm saying? And, you know, as well. But right now, they're having the issue of not being able to get, you know, big fights. Like, it's up in the air right now. Who is Jermall Charlo going to fight? He said he wanted Saddam Ali, but there's a political, you know, divide right there. If anything, Jermall Charlo may really have to, after this fight, consider jumping over to HBO. And I got a chance to talk to he was the vice president of Showtime Sports. I think his name was Chris de Blasio. And he was saying at a press conference that the Charlo brothers had before Wilder versus Tavern 2, that basically, if need be, they're not against, meaning Showtime sending, you know, a fighter over, in this case, they're talking about Charlo, over to HBO for a couple of fights, you know, to, you know, get a belt and then basically come back. You see what I'm saying? Now, when it comes to 160 pounds, let's go look at it. When it comes to the 160-pound division, right now, for 160, that's where you got to be if you want to get, you know, big money or, you know, a belt. When it comes to 154, Showtime is where you got to be. Look, Showtime fighter right here. Showtime fighter. He's over on HBO, but for the most part, between 154 and 147, Showtime is where you want to be. You see what I'm saying? If you want to get like really, really big, consistent fights. Now, I can go into full, deep detail because, of course, people will say, well, you know, the Terrence Crawford fight and Manny Pacquiao and ESPN. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about if you're a fighter right now and you want a shot at consistent big names, not 1 or 2 fights, Showtime is where you want to be for 147 and 154. To where, and of course, obviously, those guys would have to want to fight you, you know, because people are going to bring up how Errol Spence can't get no fights. But when, it, you know, business-wise, if Jermall Charlo were to go over to HBO, then fights with Golovkin want to open up for him. Now, my understanding is that, you know, they may go after a Canelo versus Golovkin trilogy. And if they don't go after the trilogy and Golovkin wins or loses, he's supposed to be moving to 168 pounds and may fight a Billy Joe Saunders. But they've been talking for quite some time, and I even talked to Abel Sanchez about it a long time ago, is that, you know, they've been heavily considering 168 pounds, all right? But nonetheless, you have Golovkin over there, right? You have Canelo over there, right? You have Danny Jacobs over there, right? You have Demetrius Andrade over there, right? You got David Lemieux over there, right? You see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with this? You got Billy Joe Saunders over there. Now, when you look at all these names, these are the pools of names that Jermall Charlo can fight. It's only but so many names that he can fight at 160 unless a guy from 160 comes down. Who is that going to be? Yeah, right. Or he moves to 168, which he's not going to do. Or a guy from 160 comes up. I mean, when 154 comes up, you know. Lara's supposed to be moving to 160, but guess what? Him and Jermall are trained by the same trainer. You see what I'm saying? So it's going to be really interesting to see like what him or Hugo Centeno does. But in my opinion, I don't want to count Hugo Centeno out. But from the fights that I've seen, he's really got to show us that he's a different fighter than what we've seen from him from the footage that's available to us. In my opinion, from what I've seen, Jermall Charlo beats him. Jermall Charlo. I be forgetting. I know who they are. I know that Jermall is 154, and Jermall 160. But sometimes, you know, saying their names, you know, over and over and over again, you be confusing yourself. But nonetheless, TstreeT Controversy. This is TstreeT Controversy Live. I'm interested in the fight. The card right now only has 2 confirmed fights. That's being Wilder versus Ortiz, which is a big fight in itself for so many reasons. Expect a whole bunch of stars to be there. And then you have Jermall Charlo versus Hugo Centeno. I expect them to add 1 more fight. I wouldn't, Gary Russell, maybe throw him in the mix. I don't know. We'll see. TstreeT Controversy. This is TstreeT Controversy Live. Please subscribe.